Who needs to approve an emergency? Who needs to approve an expedite as opposed to a normal? Those types of things. You'll notice three other fields here: impact, urgency, and priority. For change, you probably will never touch this. But what this does, and this is standard ITEL, this works for incident, works for problem. It's the combination of impact and urgency that the system derives priority from. So you never set the priority of a change. But you will tell this, your change is there's four basic flavors. This is a widespread change, it's a significant large change, those types of things. So here it's going to default to minor localized. Your urgency represents the either mission or business criticality of executing the change. So by combining these two, it gives me an overall predetermined priority. So even though I have a minor localized change here, it has a significant mission or business criticality. So it's going to raise my priority to a critical. Risk level. Go ahead.
Steve, do you mind? I just want to spend 1 minute on the class, folks, because we worked very hard, for instance, to implement this process in the infrastructure world. So the majority of changes should in fact be normal, right, as opposed to expedited. Correct. And so Steve alluded to the advanced planning or lead time, which is a separate conversation, as you said, but nonetheless, what we're trying to establish is that the majority of changes on any given week, particularly for the infrastructure, should be implemented during standard change windows, not on Monday morning, not on Wednesday at 5 o'clock. So we've successfully implemented that type of process. So I just want to point out that the class isn't just nomenclature. It's not just a couple of names. Normal means that it should be the change that is well planned and the majority of changes that are implemented in our shop. Expedited means basically there was either a break fix that's necessary, a client commitment, or poor planning.
Right. The next step here, as we move down, you'll see risk levels. I don't even want you to even think about this yet because we're building a risk engine. Suffice to say, however, under this system, the higher the level, the higher the risk. In this system also, it'll always start out as a 1. It may even change it for you. You don't even really care at this point. So it's there for you, but eventually this will be a subjective view of risk that we build into the engine. Again, it's reversal from what you may think. Risk level 5 is the highest. Risk level 1 is the lowest.
Objective.
Yes, objectively, exactly. And actually, going forward, that's going to be actually one of that criteria set of going to a technical review. This next variable, it tells us what environment you're going after. Am I going after QA? Am I going after UAT? Is this development? Is this production? Very simple. In this particular case, I'll just say it's production. The next one here is status. Unless you're going to cancel something or put it in a pending, you never touch status. It's system generated as it moves through the workflow. Change manager, and I'm just trying to get to the creation of this. Change manager, 9 times out of 10, well, let's say 99% of the time, this is going to be the Broadridge CIT executive that owns the tower. There are certain nuances of some specialized workflow where that doesn't apply. Case in point would be the one I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to go to mainframe systems, I'm going to go online. So now I'm saying that the manager group, the overall group controlling this change, is that particular group. But if this was going to be, if this was assigned to SSA, then this would be Joe Carmichael. Then that's really just opening it up and going over here and ODS Change Manager. This last piece from the main screen is storage SAN impact, yes or no. It's a required element. You must tell the system, does this change have any storage or SAN and potential to impact any storage or SAN? Even though the change is not assigned to a storage or SAN team, we have found that certain changes, especially in infrastructure, can have negative impact to storage or SAN. What we use this for is an indicator to notify storage and SAN teams that someone has raised a change outside of your purview that you may not be aware of, but they're saying could have potential impact. That gets the teams talking. That's why that's there. So that's really, again, I'm looking at my time. So I've just filled out the basics of it. So I give it my test plan, all this kind of stuff. But I need to give more information. So now I'm going to say, so what are my change types? What are my products? Those types of things. This is done through what is called categorization. I have built shortcuts. I'm not going to show you the shortcuts because I want you to use the longhand first, then we'll go into shortcuts. But it's called categorization, and it's just, you just click on the link from the main page. You have operational categorization, which is reflective of the change type, and then product categorization, which be an actual application name or can be a product code. I'm going to show you both versions. So the first thing I'm going to do, and using my example here, I want to do a mainframe change. Well, what kind of mainframe change? It's CIT based or is it development based? Let us say development. What are the options for change types that we're providing to development? And those of you familiar with mainframe code cycles, you can see these things. So you have batch on and off cycle, online on and off cycle, promotes, demotes, add to cycle, those types of things. Now, if I were to go in, say, and here, EJ, I'm going to need your help. So this is an open systems change. Wow, I got a lot of level 2. So I want to do an application deployment in prod. And then I have options. It's a corrective action, it's a decommission, it's a maintenance, those types of things. But if I'm infrastructure, I'm going to say I need a database change. What kind of change am I doing? Boom, 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 boom. So then now what you're doing is you're characterizing the type of change that is being executed with this record. You'll notice that these are single threaded. The system is specifically built, unless you're using the tasking subsystem, which I won't get into yet, for one execution per record. Tasking allows you to do multiple executions under one record, but for now we'll just keep it here. I'm going to clear this back out. I'm going to get down to product. Product lists out from a very high level. These are, we call them business areas, if you will, but let's say SBS, APTP, boom. I want to go into here, it's a gloss. And then I have all these different types of things that I could do for gloss. Obviously, I need to refine this with the help of people on this call. So, but I can also do, other aspects by just doing SPS US. I have DPS US. I have all these things that I can say where I'm doing my change against what product am I doing a change. Now, in the case of product codes, one of the things in using this example, we do something like this for ICS, which doesn't use individual application or product names, they use codes. And these codes make up, there's a number of different products or applications that exist within the code. So, and this is the way that business operates, so that's the way we set it up for them. So again, you have a 3-tiered hierarchical structure that allows you to characterize the type of change that you're performing. Now, if I were to say, okay, how do I use this in a shortcut? I'd cancel that out. I'd go select operational. Well, I want to do an online change. Come forward. Okay, what are my options? Online. Select my product, core system. Core system. Bam. So instead of going through 3 levels of like I just did it in a couple of clicks. What did the system do with that? It took my information and auto-populated it on my behalf. Okay. Now, here's another aspect, and this is specific to development change. We don't do this for infrastructure change because the infrastructure change falls nicely into the standard model. But we do find when you start to look at code deployments, you have to add other types of input that's specific to the nature of code deployment. Now, we do not modify what we call the main landscape of the change records. We just don't do that. This is not built to do that. What it is built to do is to create links. So in this particular case, I'm going to show you a mainframe change link. So as I'm creating this, one of the things, since I already told it I'm a mainframe change, if I tried to save it, it won't let me until I fill out this information. So it's a hard control. Now you can imagine the same kind of panel for any kind of code deployment. It'd just be a different link. So if it's an ODS SSA deployment change, then we have a link there for EJ. And he's already given me some of the beginning filters that we want to apply there. Same thing with gloss. If we want to have specific things here that are gloss, that are not contained within the standard model of ITSM change, and nor does it make sense to put it in a Word detail. Remember that. You always, that's what work detail here is for. It allows you to provide further and further information. But in some cases, we want to do things like this where we want required elements. So if I look at this from a mainframe perspective, first thing I'm going to say is do I require a PDX, yes or no? So if I say yes, one of the things this system is going to do is going to take that information, send it up to PDX on the mainframe, and authenticate it. That way when anybody's doing something in PDX, they know they have a valid change out there. But here, you know, you have cycle identifier. That's pretty self-explanatory. What cycle am I on? What's my release number? What's my SSR number? Or in the case of EJ, this will be, your panel's going to have version label. Is that it?
Yes.
That's where this would be. So now you tell the system, do I need to ship this to JP Morgan? No. Am I impacting Canada? Yes. Do I need an EB2 bind? Yes. Is I doing file allocation? Yeah. Do I need some scheduling? No. If I needed scheduling, it would ask me what source. Am I in the work detail or am I in PDX? Now you'll notice those work details I was showing you before, they correspond with these. So if someone's coming up yes, I expect to see what is that impact to Canada, or DB2 bind required equal yes. In that work detail entry, you're going to say, here's my DB2 bind instruction, that type of thing. If you continue on, you're allowed to select one or more online regions. So not only, again, we're further characterizing the change in what we're doing, those people who authorize, those people who review and approve, and those people who implement have a comprehensive set of information in front of them. If in fact this was proxy, then these would apply. So you have different things that are specific to proxy that they want to be able to see that were not in the regular change and doesn't make sense to put into a work detail. I save that off. Boom. Save the record. I've just completed the record. Now you'll notice the system computed a new value for me and just put it up to a risk level 3, really based upon my impact and urgency. But before I submit it, you'll notice I'm still in a draft state. I'm really just saving it because I may want to go have lunch. But the next thing the person is going to do is they're going to set their date and system. So scheduled start scheduled in. That's, you're reflecting the window which you expect this deployment to go in. So I'm just using arbitrary dates. And then what's the end of that window? 4 hours. So somewhere within that, it has to be executed. So now I've just given a scheduled start date. I'll save it again. I think I'm ready now. I'm going to come up to the workflow, and I'm going to submit it for the first level of approval. Do that by next stage. You'll notice under next stage now, the status automatically went for request for authorization. This is local authorization. And who does the system think is going to do that? Go over here to our approval phase. Look at our approvers. So now I can see that this one is going to Jerry Smith, who happens to be the director of voting and e-delivery. But it's also said by the time you get to the second level, remember this is a base foundation, 2-tiered approval, it says before you go into implementation, this thing has to go to Walter Britton. How does it know that? It knows that by the type of change and the fact that we identified online insurance. So we mapped the approvals. If there were people in between here, for example, as Kevin points out, if this required a technical review, it would show up in between these. So it's a progression, if you will. So I'll pretend that I am Jerry Smith. I'll go ahead and approve it.
Yeah, and just on that note, the way we organize changes is essentially by group function or implementer requirements. So, you know, it's something I think that is evolved from the current report methodology in that, like, it's willy-nilly. You might get an SSA change interspersed, like, between 7 online changes and 6 batch changes. So, right, Steve, I mean, one of the things that we've done on reports is try to organize things so that, for instance, all application changes for SSA can be approved in one shot.
Right. Yeah, for owing to volume control, you know, essentially there's a subsystem where we identify which ones you want rejected should be small, and whatever else you have left, if it's okay, you select all, approve all. Very easy to do. The system also, if you are an approver, the system's going to notify you via email. You could approve it right through that email. You don't have to necessarily log on to the system. So there's a number of ways to do it.